Good morning, guys. 8:40 a.m. Duke Highway, opposite direction again. I'm in the new Camry, and the first thing you notice after you got into this car is, wow, that's a very tight steering wheel, zero play, and the suspension is really good in a way that is not the comfort cushiony type, but is the sort of like a modern BMW type. That means it absorbs, but you know underlying it, it is a sporty setup. For a Camry, interesting. Very, very interesting. Oh, where should I go? Left or right? Left or right? Left. Okay. Now the car revs happily, and this engine feels very familiar. I don't think it's any different from the previous ones. Maybe they have tuned it a bit, maybe they have done a little bit of homework, optimized fuel consumption and the likes, but it feels largely the same. Decent powertrain, powerful enough, very, very smooth, and we all know it's a Toyota. So a Toyota powertrain will last. Now the transmission is generally good, but because of the steering wheel and the suspension setup, that makes you feel sporty, that makes you want to, let's do more. Then is where you realize that the transmission is still set up in a way whereby it wants to give you a smooth ride. But nevertheless, it has a sports mode. So what it does with the sports mode is pretty straightforward. I'm going 110 km/h now, 2000 RPM, move into sports mode, boom, 3500 RPM. Is I'm not sure if it is 1 or 2 gears lower, because it doesn't show when I'm in the normal mode, but when I'm in the sports mode, it's showing S4 now, so it's the 4th gear. So pretty alright. I mean, it pulls the gear lower, so that is a compensation, I would say, instead of a very, very clever logic that they program into the car. They just put, okay, sports mode, I'll just operate at lower gears, and then you are in the rev band, you have power, and then you can accelerate anytime. That's how they do it, okay? The car is rather quiet on highway cruises, and it's still a Camry, very spacious, but gone is that old, you know, cushiony type of ride that Camrys are known for. In its place, it is very, very similar to a Mazda 6. In fact, I would say the suspension is slightly better than the Mazda 6. The steering wheel is on par, just the transmission, okay, it's not that sporty type of clever shifting transmission that the Mazdas are known for, okay, but it is way, way, way better to drive, and the body control of the car is really, really good. The suspension, yeah, it is better. The suspension of the car is very good. Steering is very tight. There's no play. I'm surprised. Now, if I am Toyota, what I would do with this car is I will not just call it the Camry. Remember, Toyota has the Corolla, right? And then they introduced the Corolla Altis, and that was like, hey, there's a tag on to it, right? And in other markets, you have the Corolla Axio, which is a more comfort-oriented, more family-oriented, and then the Altis is the younger one, you know, the edgier one. So it's not the first time that Toyota doesn't have a precedence for this one to go for. Remember how the Camry came about? Camry came from the Japanese word kanmuri, and kanmuri in Japanese means crown. So Toyota has a long-running car called the Toyota Crown, which is their executive business sedan, luxurious but not a limo type car. And the Crown is famous for its comfort, Now, the Crown has a Crown Athlete, which is a sportier version of the Crown, which I actually have. I have a Crown Athlete. I mean, I bought it for my father. So, if I'm Toyota, since the Camry drives so well now, they could have called it the Camry Athlete. Don't you think so? Something to ponder there. Right, if it's called the Camry Athlete, that tells something different, alright? Okay, let's go through all the tolls and do my work. Yeah, it's only fitting to bring the Camry to one of our favorite test routes. First of all, because it's safe. Second is because it can show a lot about the car. Let's see. I think I better check the tire pressures before I continue this. Alright? Alright, I've checked all my tires. One rear tire was down by 20, so the others were like 260 and that was 240. So let's go. I mean, it's not a turbocharged engine or whatsoever. It's just a traditional 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine that does its work. I wouldn't say it is an exceptional powertrain, but it is a very familiar powertrain. Okay, wind noise is alright until about 130, 140. Then you start hearing a little bit over, but generally it's alright. I mean, road noise, wind noise. I mean, Camrys, they have Camrys and Accords. This segment, they have never done comfort in a way whereby it is disappointing, right? When it comes to comfort, they know their stuff. Or should I say, the kind of comfort that you expect in expensive cars, they give it to you. I mean, that's what the D segment does, right? 5 series or E-class levels of space and opulence. Okay, not so much the opulence part, huh? It is not finished like a premium car, but it's finished in decent materials all around. I'll do a walk around later on, but now I'm interested in the drive, because the moment you hop into this car, you roll off the showroom test drive, and then you'll be like, hey, the steering wheel, something is there. There are people who wants this, you know. Put it this way, there are people who wants to buy reliable cars, practical, functional, reliable cars, and they want space for their money, right? You can argue that, hey, you know, about 180, 190,000, I can buy a 1 Series, but come on, 1 Series, or even if there is a 316 still. In terms of real estate, again, I'm gonna say this: how much room you get for the price you pay, those can't be compared to D-segment cars, right? So the Camrys and Accords has always been the largest cars in their segment. You get more room than a Mazda 6, you get more room than a Passat, you get more room than a 508. All right. So this one achieves that kind of driving dynamics and that sort of space without putting in too much complication in the form of maybe a dual clutch gearbox, you know, or a turbocharged engine, or yeah. So this is Camry's recipe for this round. Okay, now in terms of specifications, interesting. At first when I saw, hey, there's only one driver's side door that has the keyless entry sensors, not all 4 doors. and then you thought, oh, maybe they downspec it. And then as I come on board, I realized it has radar cruise control with lane departure assist. I kid you not. Okay, let's try this now. Is it on? Wait, let me try. Set. Okay, there we go. I see the radar, I see the lane departure, and then it can detect the car in front. It will sort of, see? It will assist me a little bit when I hit the side markers, but it is not a semi-autopilot system. The semi-autopilot system is the ones that will lock you in the middle of the lane. This one assists you because you shouldn't be taking your hands off the steering wheel, but if you have sort of touched the outer edges of the markers, it will assist you in the steering wheel, and then it will make a beep that you have crossed your lane, maybe without your intention, and that will remind you when you're driving a long distance drive, going back Balik Kampung, the likes of it. And of course, with the radar cruise control, it can lock to the car in front of you and follow the speed of that car, and automatically brakes the car or accelerate the car as the front car goes. Very, very good feature. Once you have tried radar cruise control, you really don't want to live without it, okay? And let's continue the drive. Very good for body control. Okay, I better turn off the lane departure. Okay, the body control is good, but the car feels heavier, heftier than a Mazda 6. Okay, I mean, I keep mentioning the Mazda 6 because this round they made the car very sporty, very athletic to drive. So if you see a Honda Accord on mountain roads or whatever, you leave it for good. It has the type of body control that is superior to the Honda Accord. Okay, let's continue this. I really want to explore this, how it goes. Now the tires are Bridgestone Turanzas. I've seen these tires quite a few times now. They are decent. They are very decent. They are not the highest spec, stickiest tires out there, but they perform better than those Pirelli Cinturatos that are fitted on standard Minis or lower range BMWs. Okay, even though the steering wheel is tight, in terms of communication, you don't get a lot. Okay, it's a very accurate steering wheel, tight steering wheel, but in terms of communication, no, it's filtered. It is filtered. So it is the type whereby it's accurate, it's sharp, but it doesn't talk. It's not a talkative steering wheel that gives you a lot of, you know, road surface information. All right, so that will establish how daring I am with driving it. You know, I think that's because I'm not a super professional driver. You know, people like YS Kong, Ivan Kong, Tom Go. I'm not that type, so I know my limits. I know where I am. So if I already know that, okay, the steering wheel won't give me that sort of information, then I have to rely on hearing, I have to rely on looking and not being an idiot, right? Okay, let's go. Ta-da. Yeah, the car has that kind of heft that I mentioned on premium cars. You want a little bit of heft. You want to feel that. Yeah, it has that. And you'll be hearing the engine revving a lot because it's a naturally aspirated engine. Thank you. very easy to control. Hey, surprise. Nice. Nice. Let's continue that. Morning. Smooth drive, does it? It's as if the fourth gear is its most used rev band. Every time I look at it, fourth gear, it's always in fourth gear. Now the car doesn't come with pedal shifters, okay, which is a pity because I would have hoped it has pedal shifters. It's still in fourth gear. Nice control there. You have to rely a little bit on tires, to be honest, because of the weight. But really, the chassis, the steering, yeah, they did their homework this round. Nice. You know what's surprising? I was expecting the traction control to come in because I'm halfway doing a turn and you can already hear the tires, and I accelerated, and despite negotiating a turn, screeching its tires, it does it without the traction control coming in. I did not switch off traction control. I will not do that. Interesting. Okay, let me try this. Okay, I'll just see the engine revs very fast to 4,000 or 5,000 RPM from 2,000 to 3,000 in fourth gear. Does it drop? Does it drop? It doesn't. Okay, I have to shift it myself. Now, so as I come to a turn and I brake, I have to sort of, oh, it shifts pretty fast. I have to initiate the downshift myself. Instead of the car detecting that I want sporty drive, I'm braking now, I turn my steering, I'm going into a turn, let's downshift for him. Okay, it's not that tight. So third gear for these roads are better, I mean, in my opinion. Very nice. The front end keeps it tidy. At a certain point I was expecting the front end to start going out, but it did not. It keeps its tidy line, despite this is just some Bridgestone Turanza tires. Lovely. A little Kia in front of me. I hope she notices me. Thank you. Very good body control. The weight transfer is excellent. Nice. Very good. Very well controlled there. The damping is good, even though it doesn't allow the car's body weight to do a lot of traveling between left right, but it's dampened, so I like that. Nice, nice. Lucky you Americans, because you guys have the 3.5 liter, right? The 3.5 liter V6 in this car will be brilliant. And I suspect this car is engineered to take that engine from the ground up. Because now I wish I have a more deeper, bigger, wider torque delivery. Because it drives well. It totally, the chassis totally outshines the total power output of this car. I mean, it can take a lot more. So tidy. Now, at this point, some of you will be asking, so how? Does it drive like the Mazda 6? It does, but the transmission is not that sort of setup. It is not that sort of crazy clever setup. So but the chassis is good. Matches up, but it does feel heavier. It does feel heavier than the Mazda 6. Okay. So, comfort, it matches the Accord definitely because of the size, and the suspension. Because the suspension is so good this round, it's not just like sporty and then you go into normal city roads and then it starts crashing around. No, it dampens things up. So suspension is good, steering is good, body control, the sporty handling, all this is great this round. So if you talk about the Mazda 6, yes, that one is a pure sporty setup and it's pretty tight compared to these, right? So by no means a D segment car is tight, but we know in D segment cars who are the two boys that are largest, widest, most comfortable. It will always be the Camry and the Accord. But all this while, the Camry and Accord can never be associated with fun driving, and this round it does. Okay, yes, the Accord does, but that was back in the 90s, right? Ever since the 2000s, come on, the Honda Accords has been trying to behave like Camrys after the 2000s, right? They make it larger, more comfortable, more plushier, softer, boatier, and now Camry decided to go back into, not go back, they've never been that, okay, to have a sporty drive. Of course, some websites would over-exaggerate, you know, they say things like, oh, now Mazda is benchmarking against Camry on sporty driving. I think that is an over-exaggeration. But if you're talking about, is there something for Mazda to learn, or from Camry to learn from Mazda, each other? Of course there are, right? Mazda's transmission is something not the industry should take note of, right? And Camry, the way they build their cars, the way Toyota is able to balance comfort, space, reliability, some technology, and yeah. So I'll go do the walk around later on. I'm very satisfied with the drive, at least. It has a good steering wheel. It's not the type where it's totally zero feel like BMWs. I know at first I said, okay, not much of feel, but when I push it, the weightage of the steering wheel, they do it really well. So you can see just now I was driving with a smile on my face. Let's have a cup of coffee, ponder a little bit, and then do my walk around. Cheers.